Albie, it hasn't even been a month. Hasn't even been a month, and we've had our first the jungle-like tragedy happen at an evil corporation, and thankfully, who wrote The Jungle?
Sinclair?
Yes, Upton Sinclair. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, though, the good guys are pushing back. They are taking a stand, Alice, and this is truly inspirational, what we've seen go on here. Dateline, Cleveland Circle, Brighton / Boston, Massachusetts. This is in the Boston patch, and this is important. This is a piece of history that's happening right here. Brighton Starbucks workers protest in first chain strike in Boston. Workers decided to strike Tuesday, that's today, the day after the manager said to keep serving coffee as the roof leaked Monday morning. Once again, the day workers decided to strike Tuesday, the day after the manager said to keep serving coffee, even as the roof leaked Monday morning.
That sounds really hazardous.
Yes.
I can't imagine what it would be like to have a roof leak where you're trying to serve coffee.
This is, and if you see the pictures here, this is 50 times worse than the Great Molasses Flood that hit the North End.
I would think so.
Dateline Boston, more than 30 Starbucks employees and supporters rallied at a Brighton Starbucks in Cleveland Circle Tuesday morning in the chain's first unionized Boston strike, citing unsafe working conditions on Memorial Day.
I can't.
Yes, Alice, this is very important. Very important what's happening here. I don't even know where to begin.
You know, honey, sometimes when I feel down, I think what I need is to, see that somebody else is having a worse day than me so that I can be grateful.
I don't know what you think is amusing about this, Alice.
But I think in this case, it's actually making me feel better that somebody is having what they think is a worse day than me, but they're actually not.
Here we go, from our Cleveland Circle in Brighton supporting our SB Workers United. Here they are, Alice.
We make the coffee. Union coffee.
We make the coffee.
What kind of coffee? Union coffee.
Who makes coffee?
We make the coffee. What kind of coffee? Union coffee.
Those are college-educated, and I use monstrous quotes here, adults.
You're going to be forgiving their debt soon.
Who makes the coffee? We make the coffee. Who makes the coffee? They make the coffee. Do you understand that they make the coffee? That's right. But
wait, can I unionize? Because I make coffee every day.
Right now, they're not making coffee because they're on strike. Now they're angry as well that they're not getting paid during the strike, which is another problem. So, yes, more than 30 Starbucks employees, supporters rallied at Brighton Starbucks in Cleveland Circle Tuesday morning. The chain's first unionized Boston strike, citing unsafe working conditions on Memorial Day. They were told to keep serving coffee as the roof leaked yellow water onto them and the beverages, several employees told Patch. This is our first unionized strike in Boston so far, employee organizer Willow Montana confirmed as she held a microphone in one hand. We became a union shop as of 2 weeks ago. Already going great. This is perfect.
I don't think it's going to be their last strike somehow.
The new unionized shop, which they needed to work with their partners, they were told that they were partners in Starbucks, is now 2 weeks in because we had some rain the other day, and there's a leaky ceiling in one of Boston's many 150-year-old buildings. The since being unionized now, it only took 2 weeks for the place to come to a grinding halt. As she spoke, the growing crowd chanted, by the way, this Patch person is doing a lot of work for these people. As she spoke, the growing crowd chanted, "Baristas united, we'll never be divided." Cars honked their horns in solidarity for the strikers while workers handed out flyers about the situation. "When baristas are under attack, what do?" she yelled. "We fight back," the group chanted. I was told not to come in yesterday, Montana said, noting she works the closing shift. I don't think it's fair that we're losing out on pay. Well, the chain has been in the spotlight nationally and locally after Alston and Brighton voted last month to unionize. It was the store's manager's response to the roof leakage on Monday that prompted employees to shut down the coffee shop, although tensions already had been brewing.
Wait, but I get it. I get it. But wait, don't you have to? I mean, maybe I'm not educated about this. Like, maybe I'm thinking of public sector unions because I know they can't strike except under very specific circumstances. But even when you have a private union, like, isn't it negotiated as part of your contract under what conditions you can strike and, like, how much warning you have to give and stuff? Like, you've worked in places that are unionized before. Like, can people just decide that, like, somebody spilled something on the floor, so it's now unsafe, and they're going on strike? Like, or do they? I mean,
no.
like,
It usually takes a little more, but the water was yellow, Alice. Don't seem to understand. This is bigger than the Fukushima plant disaster. This is bigger than 3 Mile
I
Island.
feel like it's usually like part of the contract, the circumstances under which you can strike. But I mean, maybe it works that way. Maybe the roof leaks and you get to not show up for work and get paid. But my guess is probably if they're not being paid for their strike, that they're probably doing it outside the union contract too.
Well, the chain has been in the spotlight nationally and locally after Alston and Brookline voted last month to unionize. It was the store's manager's response to the roof leaking on Monday that prompted employees to shut down the coffee shop, although tensions already had been brewing about what they say were unfair wages. Alice, to your question.
So that would tell me that they don't have a contract.
To your question, Alice. They're not in this to wait on legal to negotiate with the arbitrator to do this, to do that.
Isn't that what being in a union is?
They're striking, man. Don't you understand? They were put in danger, man. They're striking. They want to go. You're missing the point. They want to do the fun stuff. They're not going to wait for negotiations and the contract legalese.
I think
these are adults who want to do the fun stuff. They're LARPing. When you do LARPing, you go and play sword fighting, Alice. You don't sit and go over battlefield maps for 2.5 hours.
I think they're in for a rude shock about what being in a union is actually like, because I think it's a lot of contract negotiations and legal department stuff.
I came in yesterday and there was water all over the ground, said Corey Miller, who had come in at 3 a.m. because he was in charge of the shift for the holiday. It went from a trickle to a stream. I called the manager as I was cleaning it up, and I put down a bucket. He just told me, so put down another bucket. Miller, who has worked there for 8 years, reported the leak, but was told that no one would come fix it on the Memorial Day holiday. More like, no one would come fix it on the Memorial Day holiday.
Well, and doesn't that just tell you that the reason you're in the position you are in, where you have to work in a leaking Starbucks on Memorial Day when your friends are out having fun, is because you didn't do something smart, like go to a Vogue and learn how to fix leaky ceilings? Because the people who can fix leaky ceilings are in demand enough and make enough money and have enough work coming their way on its own that they don't have to work Memorial Day if they don't want to.
Right. Well, you don't seem to understand. The oppressors cared less about the life-threatening conditions. He said manager Marvin Harris, sounds like an intimidating figure, Pinkerton, Marvin Harris, told him to keep Starbucks open despite water pouring over the counter and saturating the floor, causing a safety hazard.
By the way, being a roofer is actually one of the most dangerous jobs in the country.
Right. The roof leak occurred over the corner area where customers, this patch person is really making the case for these guys.
Guys,
what's going on? What's happening? What?
Okay,
out. Play nice and out. Oh. The roof leak occurred over the corner area. Guys! The roof leak occurred over the corner area where customers pick up their beverages, he explained. By 8:40 a.m., yellow water from the roof dripped onto cups and equipment and eventually wet the electrical wires. Uh-oh. It was torrential, Miller said. There was no way to stop it. Our water filtering system came right off the walls. When it rains, it pours, he added, noting that workers lost out on holiday pay and will continue to lose wages as long as they're on strike.
Once again, that tells me they're not striking within their contract.
So you guys were petulant, decided to be LARPing heroes, and they're not paying you to not work, but to have fun being on strike. They're not paying you.
I hope they're all fired.
He called Harris again Monday morning in the hope that he would allow the store to close. We were getting splashed by this yellow water, Miller said, noting that the flooded floor made it unsafe for customers. Harris came to assess the situation, but told employees to keep serving drinks at the door. Miller said Harris then called the district manager, who told them to shut it down. I'm not trying to slam him, Miller said, but there was no way our district manager would want us to serve coffee covered in yellow water. There were other reasons for the strike, he explained, including what he said were unfair wages. Oh, so it's not just the yellow water. There are other reasons for the strike, he explained, including the unfair wages and a breakdown in communication between employees and management. But this situation was the tipping point for Miller. Man, this patch person is writing for a Pulitzer. This is pathetic.
Who is it?
I don't know. I'll tell you in a minute. I tried calling. Hold on. I'll turn. Mary Ellen Gambon, patch staff.
I don't know her.
I tried calling my manager and the district manager 3 times to see if we should open today, he said. They wouldn't take my calls, so here we are. Well, I'm sorry about that, dude. You're on strike, remember? Barista Mariah Sunday has been working at this Starbucks for 4 months. I was supposed to work 3 to 9, she said. The water was coming down like a waterfall all over the espresso machines and the cups on the counter. We were told to take the drinks to the door and serve them. Sunday, she said she was concerned because it hadn't rained in a few days, so all the water had pooled and could have formed bacteria, then dripped onto cups and employees. Man, they are conscientious workers.
And it's like really amazingly coincidental that the roof first leaked 2 weeks after they unionized.
Mm-hmm. All the water had pooled. I was concerned. I'm concerned. It hasn't rained for a few days. If any water is up on this roof, it will have pooled now and grown bacteria. I thought that everything should have just been shut down then, she added. I would have just given out gift cards to customers. Well, that's why you're not in management.
Why would she have given out gift cards?
Because water, man. Because mean management should just give out gift cards. They're really rich. The store is frequented by Boston College students and area professionals. Now the steady stream of customers has been shut down by a flood. It wasn't a safe place for us to be, nor an attractive one, said Natalie, a barista who said she was told by the manager to serve coffee from the door. Safety and attractiveness matters in retail.
So does making money so that you can pay your employees.
Right.
These places don't operate on huge
and that means
margins.
Handing coffee to people in exchange for cash, not handing gift cards. She said she got mixed messaging from management about staying open. There was some water raining from the light sockets, she continued. We couldn't make espresso drinks. I didn't feel great about inviting people into a space that was actively raining. The BC student added that she worked that day because of the holiday pay that she now won't receive. The staff of about 20 members, you guys bitched and moaned about the yellow water. So there you go. No more yellow water, okay? The BC student added that she worked that day because of the holiday pay that she now won't receive. The staff of about 20 members has been extremely supportive of each other during the situation.
I'll bet they have.
Jacob de Blacourt, Director of Public Policy for Boston City Council at Large, Julia Mejia, and a local resident, joined in the protest. Mejia serves as the council's chair of the Committee of Labor, Workforce, and Economic Development. I saw it on Twitter, and I live right around the corner, he said. I also wanted to come out on behalf of Councilor Mejia to see what we could do. That's great.
Yeah, I'm glad to see the city of Boston.
A protester who asked to be identified as Constance, a regular customer, as well as a fellow barista at an area coffee house, noted similar issues regarding wages in the industry. I just think it's really important for us to stand together, Constance said. When we come out here, we stand up for each other. bleep happens, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. It doesn't honestly make me feel a lot better about the state of the restaurant industry in general, that people feel this way, and that the city of Boston is joining in the protest, essentially, like the people that run the city. I'm sure Mayor Wu, if anyone asks her or something, is going to be all excited to support them too, or whatever. But, it's good to know that with this stuff going on where the world is not allowed to function like a normal place, that the people in government in Boston and the Boston area are on the side of the dysfunction and the stuff not working.
Right, exactly. There's one picture of one of the protesters here earlier today sitting on a bench that they've got packed with Dunkin' Donuts product just to show them. Of course, they're
boycotting.
That is the unionized, not working, now closed Starbucks representative union people now displaying the goods of the Dunkin' Donuts, which is non-unionized, which is working just fine today. She's holding a sign that says, Starbucks, I won't choose between unionizing and comprehensive trans health benefit. So
Wait, really?
Yes. Yes.
Wait.
Yep, right on. She's right on topic. Absolutely.
I thought this was about yellow water.
Dude.
No, it's about we need to pay for somebody's top surgery.
Yes, it's about all of the things. Yes, it's about all of the things. That's exactly right. And
how do indigenous people fit in?
Oh, that is, I guarantee you, in there somewhere. An acknowledgement. Okay. I'm surprised this didn't start with a land acknowledgement.
Oh, good to know.
But as some of my callers have mentioned, remember Starbucks back in the pre-George Floyd and back with Hands Up, Don't Shoot. Remember, Starbucks was telling its baristas to have healthy race dialogues with customers. Mm-hmm. Well, there you go.
And before that, remember the CEO Schultz he didn't want people to bring their guns to Starbucks after some gun thing that happened. Might even have been Sandy Hook. I don't remember. But yeah, it's just funny because the further we go on, the more I think that these industries just aren't going to survive this paroxysm that our society is in right now. And it's funny. So if you are one of our Patreon followers and supporters, thank you very much. But we appreciate you a lot, and you got to hear us on our Sunday show. We talked a little about a restaurant experience we had and how it made us wonder if the restaurant industry was doomed, even though the restaurant was lovely. But it just, things are not normal in restaurant world. And somebody did message to tell us that the Chili's was hopping when they went to go pick up food at the Chili's near them, which is good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully somewhere survives where people can go out to eat. But it's funny that we had that conversation because then this weekend, the socialists on Twitter, socialist Twitter was all abuzz because they were debating whether or not once we achieve true socialism, whether or not restaurants will still exist. So, because they can't figure out if that's something that's purely happens in capitalist societies or if there's a way to make restaurants socialist or if they're, inherently exploitative. So, and I think the person that started it, as far as I can tell, is this rando on Twitter who said, why do people think restaurants are basically fine and would still exist under socialism? For Christ's sake, please, for half a second, just think about it. Really getting my mind blown this morning. 90% of workers in restaurants would rather be doing something else. Do you think anybody wants to be waitstaff or a kitchen porter? And if you enjoy it, and even if you enjoy it, 90% of the work is wage labor drudgery. So this debate happened and a bunch of people were debating it, which is interesting because it's they're almost at the point of a revelation, which is that the reason why people do crummy jobs that aren't fun to do is because people pay them to do it.
Right.
And so if you have a system where we're not paying people to do stuff, no one's going to want to do the crummy jobs. And since they all think that they're going to be artists supported by the state or something in socialism, that they're going to get to explore their talents as a musician with free healthcare when we finally achieve socialism. It hasn't occurred to them that the People's Army is going to be pointing a gun at them, making them do the wage drudgery, but only not for wages this time. So, but anyway, they can't figure out if restaurants would exist. There were like a bunch of debates, and some people said that under socialism we'll just have communal kitchens where people will volunteer who just love cooking and feeding other people. They'll just get together and feed other people, and everyone will help clean up and be a part of it. So that's what will happen under socialism. It'll be more like a cafeteria. And this kind of blew up and got big enough that even Matt Iglesias, formerly of Vox and currently of Substack, weighed in, and he said, I think parts of this, he's kidding, but which parts I think are kind of lift up to your imagination. He said on Twitter yesterday, needless to say, under socialism, we're not going to have bourgeois restaurants with their capitalist owners, table service, chefs, low wages, and tip-dependent business model. The future is state-owned quick service. Between McDonald's, Taco Bell, Subway, Domino's, and Starbucks, all the culinary needs of a town or neighborhood can be met with a handful of standardized products that can be collectively owned and scientifically managed by the state. With labor productivity high and competition limited, the work in these facilities will not be glamorous, but can offer decent pay and stable schedules we associate with post-war manufacturing jobs. The quick-serve SEOs will still compete in foreign markets to stay nimble. In addition to the Big Five dining chains, during summer months, Dairy Queen locations will also operate, using the extra labor availability provided by high school students on summer vacation. All teens are required to do summer Dairy Queen shifts as a part of the educational process. We're talking small DQs here that would basically just serve ice cream, allowing grill and chill or brazier format stores would introduce senseless overlap with the Big Five. The goal here is summer ice cream availability, not steak fingers. Thanks to federalism, there is some chance that individual states will also operate their own fast food franchises as an expression of local culture. Dunkin' in Massachusetts, In-N-Out in California, Chick-fil-A in Georgia. We acknowledge the diversity amidst equality. Is this guy for real? Is this satire? Who knows anymore? I do seriously believe that a society with abundant energy could and should generate labor demand so robust that it's basically uneconomical to operate full-service restaurants for mainstream clientele. And then he does joking at the end with the hand claps in it. Every waiter is a policy failure. So, which I think is an interesting point, ultimately, when he does get to his point at the end of his sort of long joke, which is kind of what we were noting this past weekend, which is that in the labor market that we have today, I don't know how restaurants can economically survive.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. At the wages that you have to pay people to stick around, I mean, restaurants around here at least are paying back of the house people $20 an hour to start who've never worked in a kitchen before. And that's I mean, I don't see how they can make enough food to make that make sense.
They're trying to keep profit margins reasonable so you don't scare the hell out of people.
Right.
And at the same time, consumers now are the power of the buck has been decreased, and all of their supply prices are way through the roof. It's impossible.
Yeah, and then you have Michelle Wu charging you however many $1,000s to be able to operate outdoor dining or whatever things, and you have the city supporting when your workers go on strike and won't even let you sell a bare minimum of coffees to pay the rent and pay your workers now that they're unionized. I mean, it's crazy. And I mean, I think we are, and I know the last couple years have been brutal on the restaurant industry, but I don't think the pain is over in that industry, anywhere near over. I think we're about to see when this recession starts to hit, the real recession that's coming. I think that we're about to see a restaurant apocalypse, the likes of which we didn't see in COVID.
Yeah, and that sucks. And already, maybe it was going to happen eventually, maybe not, but it is too bad. Even the hotel experience is different than it was even 10 years ago, certainly than 20 years ago. I mean, you don't find front of the house employees, barely at all. You have somebody who's essentially going to scan your credit card. Right now, this is what they're doing. I'm sure it could be easily automated at this point, and hand you a key, and that is really it. There's nobody helping with luggage anymore and things. There aren't any bellmen, doormen, in most places there aren't. It's self-parking now. It's not valets or anything like that. Valet companies are expensive too. I mean, I think it's just I can't imagine. It's just things are just a lot different. But also, if you're a parent of a kid who's in $200,000 college debt and who obviously went sideways and just sucks
And worked at Starbucks for
works
8
at Starbucks,
years.
who now is working at Starbucks, who now has, in lieu of doing anything actually productive in their lives, who now is part of the union movement at Starbucks, who's managed now to shut down their Starbucks with a strike and now is kvetching about not being paid for it because their life was in danger. First of all, as a parent, obviously, I would personally certainly excommunicate that person, but not after I talked to them on the phone and laughed my ass off. If I ever did that, was an employee like that,
And
I told
strike.
my dad would get a never-ending supply of joy from my pain, and rightfully so. I mean, how are you a parent and you allow your useless, ingrate child to behave like this? It's freaking disgraceful. All of these people need to have their feelings hurt with loud berating, yelling from a parent. This is incredible. So now they've tanked a Starbucks, and now if I was the mothership or something, I would say, beautiful, shut her down. Sayonara. That's how you guys wanted to shut down? Guess what? You shut it down. You all told us about some, dangerous yellow water. We can't
operate the building. It's going to cost
No.
a lot to fix. It's probably a historical building around
yeah.
there. You can't do anything about that. It's probably cheaper for the company to just put a stop to this now.
Remarkable. It's just absolutely remarkable. All right. In keeping with entitled total jerks, you know what's interesting?
What's interesting?
I've had a revelation about Lia Thomas.
Okay.
Lia Thomas, who's the guy who's swimming as a girl now, he has the trans thing going, and it seems to be getting top surgery or something like that, and it is whatever. But you know what he also has? That he's retained from being a guy, which, of course, he is. Total jock arrogance. He's got a dude's jock arrogance. And listen to it. This is an ABC News interview with Lia Thompson. Lia Thompson is breaking her silence. Thomas is breaking her silence and pushing back. This ABC News reporter does everything she's a real she, can to work on behalf of Lia Thomas here. So here it is.
I knew there would be scrutiny against me if I competed as a woman. I was prepared for that, but I also don't need anybody's permission to be myself and to do the sport that I love.
Assigned male at birth, Thomas.
What was she at birth?
Assigned male.
Oh, okay.
The doctor looked at her and guessed.
Assigned male at birth. You know what, well, guys? What are we thinking in this one? Anything? Well, you know, it is an even number day. Let's just call this one a boy. Here. Assigned male at birth, as ABC News does the work.
Grew up in Austin, Texas, where she says she fell in love with swimming when she was just 4. But as she grew, she says she felt increasingly disconnected to her body.
Wait, but listen. She fell in love with swimming when she was 4?
Mm-hmm.
When she was 4, he fell in love with swimming.
No, you're not allowed to. It's retroactive.
Oh, I see. She was always a she. Okay.
There was actually a debate when Caitlyn Jenner came out as trans about, it was like on Wikipedia, a bunch of people were trying to update the Bruce Jenner Wikipedia page to say that Caitlyn Jenner had like set women's records and all these things, because obviously Caitlyn Jenner was always a woman the whole time. And you have to believe that's part of the thing that you have to believe if you're in on this.
Right.
Feel like I was a boy. I was like, this isn't me. This isn't who I am.
Thomas earned a spot at her Ivy League dream school, UPenn, on the men's team. But by her sophomore year,
I like that Thomas earned a spot.
She says her gender dysphoria left her depressed and suicidal.
I was barely going to classes. I could really barely get out of bed. And I said, I can't live like this anymore. And I want to be able to do things I enjoy.
Even if it might cost me my swimming career.
Yeah, and that's part of what kept me from transitioning for so long, is I wasn't sure if I could continue swimming and doing the sport that I loved.
Thomas began HRT, hormone replacement therapy, in May of her sophomore year, 2019.
The mental and emotional changes actually happened very quickly. I was feeling a lot better mentally. I was less depressed, and I lost muscle mass, and I became a lot weaker and a lot slower in the water.
Oh, wait. Oh, I see. So it was a sacrifice that she made in order to survive.
Right. She became worse at swimming.
Right.
Which is objectively true. If you take a bunch of estrogen, then you will get worse at swimming. Unfortunately, not worse enough to rank the same in terms of where you fall in the swimming rankings as people who went through their entire puberty on estrogen, essentially.
After following NCAA guidelines of a year of hormone therapy to change gender categories, Thomas started her senior year on the women's team. But her success in the water was met with outrage.
By the way, so it's showing Thomas up there with huge, broad shoulders and a muscular male physique.
Right, because once you go through male puberty, you can't undo it.
Right.
Leading up to the NCAA championships, her critics say she jumped in the rankings between the men's and the women's team.
And there are some
Her critics.
I mean, she did jump in the rankings. between
Critics
the
say
men's
that.
and the
That's critics. Don't, no.
who look at the data and suggest that you're enjoying
Just make sure you're very careful, ABC reporter. It's like bomb diffusion here. There's some people who look at the data and maybe suggest,
that you're enjoying a competitive advantage. What do you say to that?
There's a lot of factors that go into a race and how well you do. And the biggest change for me is that I'm happy. And
and that increased his propulsion by tenfold. Happiness, we know that, in fish, it determines their speed.
sophomore year, where I had my best times competing with the men, I was miserable. And so having
Because you weren't winning.
that be lifted is incredibly relieving and allows me to put my all into training, into racing. Trans people.
Have we taken a happy reading from the other girls about their happiness at all?
It's also interesting that, I think it was a Yale student who beat Lia Thomas in one race, who's a girl transitioning to be a boy, also swims on the girls' team.
Right.
I mean, did no one
Well,
let
I
her
don't
know?
know.
Did no one let her know that if she goes on the boys' team, that her happiness will make her go faster, and she'll similarly shoot
Right.
up in the rankings in the men's swimming and be able to set men's swimming records? Because I don't know if anyone told her that her happiness would just magically make her do better at the sport if she joined the men's swim team. I mean, he joined the men's swim team.
Right. So you're not seeing the video here. I'm seeing it. But when she just said, or he just said, well, and I was happy, honey. Just absolutely lit up. Now, what is this entitlement that at the end of the day, the most important thing that happens here is that some dude who now wants to be a girl is happy. Guys, we're going to crush your swimming dreams, ladies. Sorry about that. Oh, but that doesn't feel right. Well, Leah's not happy unless she gets to. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know happy was a thing. That it meant that the rest of the world would have to bend into pretzels to cater to your happiness level.
Yeah, I also am not winning swimming races, and I would like everybody to let me so that I can also feel that happiness that Lia Thomas is experiencing.
Don't transition for athletics. We transition to be happy and authentic and
Authentic. If this ain't some custom grade gaslighting, we transition to be authentic. I'm not so sure that's not nuclear level ironic backwards ass BS.
Well, yeah, being authentic and your real quote, real self doesn't generally need to involve tons of hormone and surgery and medicalization of your body, which was totally normal and healthy beforehand.
Happy.
Our true selves. Transitioning to get an advantage is not something that ever factors into our decisions.
You didn't.
No. Not at all. Oh, then do you mind just quickly going back to the racing? Okay. I can't.
We'll be done in 10 minutes, okay? No, out.
Okay, out.
Out.
Yes,
10 minutes. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Get along for 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Guys, get along. Each time I hear a noise that sounds like somebody going nuts is another day without an iPad or a screen. How come they don't care about me being happy, the kids? It's odd.
I don't know why.
They care about
I don't know why. But, I mean, so I'm just wondering, like, how far this logic goes, right? Because, I mean, plenty of women want a boob job to, like, feel happy and feel good about their bodies and not hate themselves when they look in the mirror. Plenty of people who are larger don't like how they look when they look in the mirror and feel that their true self is a skinnier person and would like to get free weight loss surgery and get to be a skinnier person. So, like, how is every surgery that you want and modification to your body to be happy? Like, is getting a tattoo covered if you can't be happy without a tattoo?
Well, yeah, but I just think there's some happy privilege happening here, and a lot of it has to do with the patriarchy, being prioritized. The boy wants to be the best girl at something, and if he doesn't get to be, then he's not going to be happy. So you girls have to let him be. It's crazy. You talk about we're the feminists. Oh my God. It's nuts.
Yeah, I don't know why, too. Like, it seems like there's a much more active movement amongst feminists about this in England. And, like, maybe the J.K. Rowling thing has activated people or something. But I see much more of it coming from British sources, too. I read an article recently in Scotland there's sort of an outcry because a lot of the men who transition to live as women while they're in prison so that they can go be in the women's prison. Right. It turns out when they leave prison, end up deciding that they're not trans and going off hormones and going back to living as men.
Huh. My goodness. Well, I mean, they certainly were happy being surrounded by all those ladies in prison.
They were happy.
It's funny you say that because in a Blocked and Reported podcast, Jesse Single or somebody was mentioning that, like, where are the feminist voices, etc. And Katie Herzog lost her mind, Alice, on the podcast. You should listen to it, saying that feminists and lesbians have been talking about this for a long time. I hadn't known about it, but anyway.
Transition to win more medals.
No.
Thomas quickly became a lightning rod. 16 of her own teammates and some of their parents wrote anonymous letters arguing Thomas posed a threat to women's sports.
By the way, anonymous letters. They wrote anonymous letters.
Yeah, because if they wrote a letter with their name on it, you'd ruin their lives and make sure they could never get a job.
Exactly. The ABC reporter did not tell us, give us that information.
The women who signed the letter anonymously said that they absolutely supported your right to transition, but they simply think it's unfair for you to compete against cisgendered women.
You can't go halfway and be like, I support trans women and trans people, but only to a certain point.
Here's the tell right here. Here's the dark covenant, the deal with the devil that he's presenting right now.
Can't go halfway.
You better be all in. You better be all in. If you don't support this guy winning all the medals against the girls, then you are totally anti-trans. You might as well be hating and threatening.
I think the left,
this is,
in general,
but Alice, this is a creeping threat. And this is dangerous stuff.
But I think that trans activists are concerned because this girl's sports issue is something that I've seen. I mean, I follow a lot of news and I'm a weirdo, but I've seen, like, normal people who don't follow much news, like, be upset about and kind of be like, whoa, I didn't know Democrats were going to do this. Like, I voted for Joe Biden because Trump was crazy, but I didn't think this was going to happen. It's having boys play girls' sports is something that a lot of normal people know is nuts, right? And I think the left is going to regret, the left in general and trans activists in particular are going to regret tying the progress that's been made by trans people in people just wanting to be nice to them and have them live in society and not get hurt or killed or whatever, right? Like, in tying that to crazy issues that we all know are nuts, like having men play women's sports. Right. And it's the same as like the abortion thing is it's right. Like all they have to do is not be crazy, because there are a lot of people that sort of like don't want to make a big fuss about the abortion issue, that say they support Roe v. Wade when they get polled, in general feel fine with abortion like in the first trimester, but then like get squeamish once we're talking about like a baby. And the left's refusal to like give any ground on late term abortions and like and like care for babies born alive and like stuff like that, like I think it absolutely it radicalizes a lot of people against them. The fact that they choose to go all in on the most wild, insane positions. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. They go all out. And it's like, no, you have to have trans people in girls' sports. You have to believe that Caitlyn Jenner, a woman, won all those what did Bruce Jenner even win? Decathlons or something? Yeah. I don't know. But like, I think that this is a big miscalculation on their part.
But and this is also, this spokesperson is not a good spokesperson to say you have to support everything I do, and if you don't support an entire community of people who are endangered. That's some kind of dark extortion this poor person is doing. You have to love everything I do. Well, no, because one thing I know about men and women, a lot of them are selfish and immoral, and this appears to be one of them. So regardless of the gender, this con artist bully is, trying to extort us and threaten us and intimidate us. You better like what I do, or else you're not in for trans people. Bull. That is horse manure.
Cisgendered women.
You can't go halfway and be like, I support trans women and trans people, but only to a certain point. Where if you support trans women as women and they've met all the NCAA requirements, and then I don't know if you can really say something like that.
Well, maybe the NCAA requirements, Leah, should be different.
Right. Well, yes.
I mean, like,
trans women as women and they've met all the NCAA requirements, and then I don't know if you can really say something like that. Trans women are not a threat to women's sports.
While the science on transgender athletes is new and evolving, some medical experts say the effects of higher testosterone during male puberty may never be fully erased.
What are the physical aspects that trans women may not be able to roll back with hormone therapy?
Obviously, issues related to body size, airway size, hand size, foot size, perhaps bone density, and so forth. But I think the main...
Other than that, nothing. Other than everything, nothing.
Main thing is just the interactions of exercise training and skeletal muscle.
Are you saying that years of hormone therapy cannot put trans women in a place to compete with cisgendered women?
I think that evidence so far would suggest that periods of a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years is probably insufficient.
There is this concept of...
Yeah, I don't like that. So it's interesting, Michael Phelps's ex-girlfriend is trans. I don't know if you knew this about him. Okay. But it was a bit of a debate because he at one point during this Lia Thomas thing said that she should compete with the guys. And, the ex-girlfriend was mad and went to the press and said, like, he has physical advantages, which is obviously true. He's like a weird genetic freak. He has like webbed toes or whatever. That he's better at swimming than a lot of people, right? Which is true. You have these like bell curves of people, and there's a lot of overlap between men who are good at swimming and women who are good at swimming, and the same with running and everything else, right? But, when you get to the very elite tail of that bell curve, the men, those very elite men are going to outpace the women completely, right? Mm-hmm. And, we're still only seeing the very beginnings of this issue, because we're still only seeing like relatively mediocre men decide to become women and play women's sports. But there's going to come a time when somebody who's a man who's really good at one of these sports as a man is going to turn around and decide to become trans.
Right.
And then
had
gonna
Bruce
be
Jenner done that in the 70s, then he would have still held every single female record for everything he ever did.
Exactly. So, and obviously trans activists love to point out that, like, if this is the case, how come every trans person doesn't dominate? Well, because of those bell curves, right? Because, there are a lot of women who are really good at some of these sports and are better than a lot of men at them, right? And there aren't that many trans people. So, it's just statistically, it's unlikely you're going to get one of the guys who's really, really, really good at a sport deciding to be trans. But the number of trans people appears to be rapidly going up in society. And just we're playing a statistics game here. So we are going to get one eventually. We are going to have a world-class male runner here win one of these marathons in the women's category.
So here
sometime.
is the ultimate affront to women
Of the legacy effects of testosterone, and that can't ever be zero. Should that eliminate or disqualify transgender women?
I'm not a medical expert, but there's a lot of variation among cis female athletes. There's cis women who are very tall and very muscular and have more testosterone than another cis woman, and should that then also disqualify them?
Thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's what I said, right? Like, there are women who are
But the fact that he's saying it, Alice, is an
he's not a medical
antagonization
right.
of women. Of saying, well, too bad, you guys are different too, and I'm just different too, and I'm just you. I also have long hair and have a girl's name too, so I'm just the same as you.
Right. And I mean, we've seen this debate. I think it was last year. We read the thread of the woman who proposed that the reason there's girls' sports is because men kicked them out of men's sports because they were beating all the men, and actually women are better at sports. But like, everybody with a brain knows that that's not true, which is why that I think it's such a mistake for leftists to stake out these positions that are, every normal person knows that they're absolutely insane, backwards, the exact reverse of the truth positions. I mean, good luck, by the way, to the Democrats who have to campaign in November on women's sports exist because women are better at sports than men actually, and men kick them out, and we should just get rid of women's sports as a category and let it all be unisex. Like, have fun with that one, because I don't know. And I don't know about I don't think people are going to like either Title IX being used to push women out of women's sports, since Title IX has historically been a tool to get more women into sports and more women into college.
Well, if you don't do it, Alice, then you lose your lunch money. Unless you let, in high school, as we've talked about, if you brought up before, unless you let the high school boys, 16-year-old boys, who, when I was in high school, I didn't know this was an option, shower alongside the girls, the 16-year-old girls in high school, well, then Biden takes your lunch money away. We got a problem in this country.
Yeah. Fortunately, I think the American people know that we have a problem, because Biden's White House has remained historically unpopular, and the left has been in a tizzy about this. Rumors are swirling that Biden's gonna kick out Ron Klain. NBC News did a big piece on it today, all about how he's frustrated that people don't see all the good things that they're doing, and he needs to work on his message and rethink the message. So they're gonna focus on the economy for the next month and message all the great things they've done for the economy. So thinking about Biden and the economy the next time you're at the store, I certainly have been. But you can reach out to us, as always, on Twitter at Burn Barrel Pod. We're also at Facebook.com/Burn Barrel Podcast and BurnBarrelPodcast.com. You can shoot us an email, burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can leave us a message at burnbarrelpodcast.com. That's a chat. Sorry we didn't get to that today, but we will pick it back up again tomorrow or in the next few days.